Good evening. It's Wednesday, January 8th. I have been at it all day long and wanted to take a break and join you guys for a live stream just to banter about topics we're dealing with today. So, for the next 15, 20 minutes, I'd just like to sit here and pretty much do a video diary on just some of my food for thought. First, who am I? For those who've been around and curious, I am Fletus Poston. I've been in the industry since the mid 2000s, where I started my career doing IDS work for a satellite security office in Boone, North Carolina, while completing my undergrad at Appalachian State University. During my time at App, I had the ability to have a guest lecturer who was looking to give opportunities to students to do IDS work for nights and weekends. So I got to cut my teeth doing that. After that, I joined a local utility in North Carolina where I did a lot of different IT and security roles. When I joined them, I did IT service management. I managed the process that, excuse me, where I was helping onboarding the incident change process and ran the weekly change advisory boards. That was my first role right outside of a college doing IT work. After that, due to the rotational program, I moved into web application monitoring. At that point, I cut my teeth on doing vendor management because during that time on that team, they were looking to put a capacity planning tool in place to retire a legacy internal Linux tool that was written in house. So I got to cut my teeth doing vendor management and doing web app monitoring. While doing web app monitoring, I got to learn a lot about what web apps look like. This was in the late 2000s, early 2010s, where web people were still figuring out what is a cookie, what is a web browser, what is a session, what is tokens. After that, I moved into electronic document management. That's where I spent a good bulk of my time before getting back into cyber. When I joined that team, I was a business analyst supporting the front end UX. I was helping design the inputs for metadata that was for the documents for the nuclear fleet, the generation fleet, HR, legal, and other lines of businesses. Quickly realized I had a technical chops that I wanted to scratch, so I helped do data conversion from the legacy system to the new system via XML and some C code. After that, I moved into the back end side of the team as a server administrator slash identity access management for that team. During my time with them, while supporting the application both in the corporate nuclear and the legacy applications, so three different environments, I was part of a small team doing that. They asked me to manage all of our process accounts and service accounts. So at that point, I got to itch the cyber component of my role again by managing identities and access via the process accounts, service accounts, and interactive accounts. Got the ability to learn basic batch files and other administration to add and remove people from local server admin groups that we managed. We had approximately 300 servers at that time we were managing for our team across those environments. At that time, due to mentorship, a good friend of mine was the current director of security operations there. I started meeting with him, having coffee and lunch, and just learning. I got the itch to go back to school, so I went back and got my master's. When I completed my master's in 2016, I was able to move into a security role. So I moved over to our security operations center as a cyber systems engineer. While being a cyber system engineer was a good part of my career, it allowed me to see what it's like to build out a security operations center from the ground up. I watched them hire new analysts. I was able to build out my security engineering team. And when I left that organization in 22, I was responsible for approximately 14 different cyber engineers supporting anything from endpoint protection and response to our SOAR, SIM, and cloud operations, as well as our email security controls. I spent a lot of my time as a cyber engineer cutting my teeth on email security, learning how to protect ourselves. What does the secure email gateway look like? Had the ability to learn what URL rules are, how to write specific syntax to help determine if it was a legitimate email or a malicious email phishing attempt while leading that team. Then in the mid 22, I decided to leave that utility and I joined a company called CrashPlan. We were an endpoint backup and recovery team when I joined. We've since acquired a company that allows us to do backup and recovery inside of Microsoft. as well as a server backup solution. So when I moved in, I became the senior manager of the security operations team. So what does that mean? Security operations at the company I'm at now means I'm over identity access management, threat and vulnerability management, application security, and security operations. When I joined, I had two cyber security operations engineers doing my internal phishing response, detection response, engineering. When they left, we actually decided to source out the traditional level one to an MDR. So I got to experience with having an extension of my team by managing the relationships with an EDR provider while still managing the internal components of identity, threat, vulnerability management, and application security. So, Fletus, what is a security operations center and what is it not? I'd like to spend a few minutes to explain that it's not what a lot of people think it is. It actually is organized, it's structured, it has the ability to give calmness to the chaos that we live in. You need to think about security operations as something that, no matter the size of your organization, is important. It can be a team of one or it can be a team of 100, depending on the size you are. For a security operation to be effective, there needs to be playbooks, run books, repeatable processes that come into play. So what that means is you need to also have a good GRC process. GRC is governance, risk, and compliance. Because without policies and procedures, your security operations center, your analyst, your security team has no authority to block traffic, to respond to an event, because without governance, risk, and compliance, so policies and procedures, you're picking and choosing and whacking them all, for lack of a better analogy. So what does it take to get into a security operations role or a security engineering role or just any security role? It requires being curious, having an appetite to learn. It means getting up each day and thinking about how can I make a difference today? That starts with joining local communities, subscribing to local news outlets so that when you get to the office, you have material to learn what happened while you were sleeping, what happened overnight, what are the new threat vectors, what are the new vulnerabilities, what are the new opportunities slash patches I need to apply or work with my IT team to apply to protect my organization. I've dropped some short videos over the last few weeks. I've dropped a few sessions over the last few weeks that explain a lot of different things that I find important. But the biggest thing I find important is you and I. It's the human side of our organization. I call it human-centric security. Most of you have heard of people, process, and technology. We're good at purchasing technology. We're good at putting processes in place, but we're not good at learning how our people operate and securing the individuals that work for our organizations. As a security operations person, I want you to see something and say something. I want you to think about what threat vectors our organization may face each day. I stated I work for a backup and recovery company. We're a fully remote organization. So my employees are scattered across the US and globally now with the recent acquisition. So I have the opportunity to have to pay attention to news not just in the US, but also in the EU and APAC. I need to understand what is physically going on in these countries that could impact my employees who are working remotely and or going to a co-working space in country. So Fletus, how's that applied back to security operations? When you know the stresses that your employees are facing in their personal life, in their commute, or what they're dealing with, you're able to understand their behaviors that they apply in the workforce. You're able to understand how they're going to respond to a phishing email, a social engineering attack, or a drive-by attack from visiting a website and clicking on a nefarious link that's not actually the download that they want from a legitimate resource. So you need to just understand compassion, have empathy. Those are two things in our field that we need to go to. If you poll most of your organization today, They see security people are as the no machine, the NO. What I will challenge you, for those who already work in the field, is know your no. So KNOW. Know why you need to say no. Know when you can say yes, but or no, but. These are important phrases to make sure that you add value to your organization. Because when you enter a meeting as the security representative and you can come in with a yes, but statement or a no, but statement, you just gave the opportunity for a discussion to happen. You're not just the person coming in to shut them down. Because once you show them that you are also compassionate and you have empathy and you're really at the end of the day have the same goal and objective them of growing your organization, they see you as a peer, not just as big brother. On the flip side, our jobs do require us to monitor the activity of our employees, what they do on their endpoints, what they do when they're surfing, and if you got managed devices, their iPhones and their tablets or Androids and their tablets, whatever the managed device is. So make it clear to your employees. Do roadshows to explain these are the security tools we have. This is what a block screen looks like from our endpoint protection response tool. This is what a block screen looks like from our next gen firewall or content filtering system. And this is what an error message should look like from our IT organization. If you see anything that doesn't look like these color schemes, these wordings, these logos, stop. Reach out to the help desk, your service desk, or the direct line that you have with your security operations center. Those are things that are important. So for this video today, I'm talking about soft skills. I'm talking about compassion. I'm talking about the ability to work well with others. Once you get that, then your technical aptitude can be built. Then you can focus on what's this fill in the blank. You want to be a cyber threat intel. So a cyber threat intel analyst has to be comfortable working with sensitive data and understanding how to do and need to know. I'll introduce the traffic light protocol to you. You'll have to understand if something is red, how you're allowed to share it, or if it's amber or amber strict, where you can share it. Once it gets to clear, that's when you see the data that we see in our news articles. You get discussed in podcasts such as this and others, or the material that's being plastered on marketing material. When it's not classified outside of clear, legacy white, it can't be freely disseminated. And a threat intel analyst would understand that. Additionally, additionally, the CTI analyst is responsible for understanding how to request information without giving up the operational security vulnerabilities. For example, if you're looking at data and you're starting to ask or request for information or you're requesting data, you don't want to accidentally give away or inadvertently give away that your company has been compromised, that you are in the middle of either a supply chain attack, a ransomware, or another threat actor has compromised your system and you're just trying to get the TTPs, the tactics, techniques, and procedures that they performed through your CTI. And additionally, your content engineering is another thing that's important. Do you know what is the baseline of your environment is? Can you write rules in your SIM and your SOAR platforms? Your SIM is your orchestra, not pause. It's your system information and event management tool, your security incident and event management tool, or your SOAR, your security orchestration automation response tool. These are playbooks and automation that comes in. So Fletus, you've thrown out a lot of terms here. Let me pull back for a moment. CTI and content engineering. Those are distinct roles that are usually seen as blue or defensive roles. When you do those as well, I've thrown TTPs at you, the techniques and procedures. Those are usually tied to an adversary. You want to give attestation. You want to know what you're dealing with. So Fletus, why is it important to have attestation? If you know who the threat actor is, you can know what their common methods are. Do they normally do droppers? Are they normally going to come in with a phishing email? Is their normal entry point a rogue download? Do you have adversaries who are focusing on physical sides? Different adversaries have different ways that they interact with. So you'll see from some of the folks out there, Mandiant, Palo Alto, they will name the adversaries for you. And then they give you their tactics and techniques. So then you can map it and you can look through different frameworks such as the MITRE attack, the cyber kill chain, and understand where you're catching these adversaries. What is their next step? And as we've talked in other talks and in other sessions, you just want to break that chain. You just want to stop them. And then you want to get a foothold. This is where the SOC turns into an IR analyst, the incident response. So your SOC team is generally there to triage. Think of your SOC as the one who's making sure your doors are locked, making sure that they have the ability to prevent, and then they help you with detection. The response time comes in your incident response team. That's your IR team. Those are your level 2, level 3 analysts who are there to continue the investigation, start doing hunting, and have the ability to determine what happened pre-mortem, what happened before the event triggered, and then post-mortem, what happened after the event triggered. Depending on the scale of that attack, your IR can get to a high or a severe point of view. At that point, it turns into an incident management or a CERT, a cyber incident response team, depending on your organization. At that point, you have incident management. That's now when you're starting to consider this is a large scale event that I'm going to need factors from other lines of businesses and maybe external to be involved. So an incident management now may pull in your IT admins, your IT backups. You're probably now pulling out your DRBCP pens on top of your IRP, your incident response plan, and starting to pull together notes. Something for you to know. Once you declared an incident, that is the time to add a dedicated scribe. You want that individual at that point in time to start from the day one. You don't want to start writing up your reports at the end of the event because you don't know the event could be 4 hours, 12 hours, or 6 weeks. So the sooner you start documenting, the better. Also, by assigning a dedicated scribe as soon as you know the event is started, he or she knows their job is to capture relevant events. So they're listening to the conversations with a different lens. Their job is to capture any key indicators that comes in, any adversary notes we need. And they're also going to be aware of what the executives are going to be wanting to care because they're going to be able to help you with the root cause analysis that comes into play later of what caused this event to happen. Your IM team, your incident management team, is going to have an incident commander or incident manager. They're going to deputize folks depending on if you do a follow the sun or centralized model. Fletus, again, you're throwing a lot of terms at me. If you purely are based in one country, you're going to be centralized. Your team's likely going to work an 8-hour shift or a 12-hour shift. You're going to have coverage 8 to 5 or 8 to 8. After that, you're accepting the risk and having a call out procedure if something goes out. Where a follow the sun model means you're going to have shift work. You're going to hand off the incident to another team, and you're going to let your US team, your Europe team, your Asia team go to bed. And that's important to realize that you set time-based, that no matter what's going on, you work 8 to 5 or 8 to 8, and then you go home. That is difficult for an analyst who is hyped up. They've had their Red Bull, they've had their Monster, they're highly caffeinated. They want to keep working the event. And you got to set precedent that they need to go home. They need to walk away. They need to eat. They need to sleep to maintain the integrity of the investigation. Because you don't want to get at the end of the event and an analyst be tired and click the wrong thing or enter the wrong thing or block the wrong event because of their indicators that they pulled in. So set precedent early. This is your shift. This is what you work. We're going to have a quick stand up at the beginning of the shift for 15 minutes. We're going to assign out tasks and objectives. And then I'm going to ask you at the end of the shift to read my report before I send it to the executive. At the end of every shift, there should be a briefing or a handoff. Same thing with shift work. If you work a 24/7 security operations center, you have a stand up at the beginning of the shift and you have a stand out at the end of the shift to hand over any active investigations that are going on during that shift and leading into the next. For the incident management piece, that incident commander, you're going to want to deputize someone else to be your counterpart while you're sleeping. He or she has the authority to make decisions during that cycle before you come back online. So think through a few of those things when it comes to incident response and then incident management. For those who interact with me in real life, know that I just went through this by thinking through what does cyber incident management look like and understanding that a basic alert turning into a triage, turning into an IR may grow past what your SOC, your IR team can manage by themselves, and they need to engage an incident commander or an incident management process who can pull in IT, legal, finance, public relations, communications to make sure that we have a statement, especially if it ends up being a supply chain or third party incident. Because you, as the individual, do not want to be the first to state that a third party has been compromised. Once you determine that it's associated with them, you want to confirm that with the vendor. You want to work with the vendor to make sure you have unified communications. So roll back again. Communications are difficult. Every line of business has its own language. So setting precedent early on of a common language. When I say incident, this is what I mean. When I say risk, this is what I mean. When I say X, this is the definition. So giving them the terms and the definitions is important when you're trying to have a common language so that there's not misinformation. There's not an opportunity to give the executives or the board members misinformation because you are not using common language. The common analogy I use is it's like two ships passing in the night. You feel like you're in the same thing, but you miss each other because you're not using common language. So we've been at this for about 20 minutes. I shared who I am, why I have passionate. I shared some of my strengths, my weaknesses of I like the human. I love human centric. I've gone into security operations a little bit. I've gone into incident management and I've talked about IR. What I would like to leave you with before I conclude this in the next few minutes is there is a place for you in this field. Even if you do not have security in your title, you are still part of the security organization. So, Fletus, what do you mean by that statement? It's now 2025. Every employee now likely has access to a digital footprint. You either have email, chat, and your company's likely got software as a service or SaaS products that you're interacting with. So, you, as an employee of a company, are important to them from a security posture management point of view. You need to understand how to protect your identity, your username, and your passphrase, also known as a password. You need to understand data classification. What can I share? What can I not share? What am I allowed to download to my device versus keeping in a system? What can I email? What can I not email? How do I put data labeling on things? These are all things that your GRC team and your security operations team cares about. Now we're just trying to enable our finance team, our marketing team, our R&D teams to understand the importance of the role they do for the company and how security is a blade in their job description. So my last thing with you is if you are a leader in security or in IT, talk with your peers and make sure that when they're writing their performance reviews as we're in the new year, that you give them a way to track security. Have they attended a security awareness event? Are they willing to give a security briefing? That could be you nominate an employee in your organization during their stand ups, their all hands, or a staff meeting that they start with a cyber moment. Because we all know when you teach someone something is when you truly understand it. So if you're empowering your employees with cyber moments, building cyber champions inside of your organization, they now feel empowered to help you. They're no longer scared of the security organization, as I alluded to earlier, as the no machine. They know that if they see something and say something or do something, that it's still okay to report it with a blameless opportunity. Not saying there's not consequences for their actions, but they should be comfortable saying, "Hey, Fletus, I clicked on that phishing email today. I did type in my username and password. What should I do?" And allow you as the security operations manager or as a security team to follow your playbook for a phishing email. Is it locking their account? Is it resetting their password? And what other opportunities you've set up? Additionally, you've now built a champion who's going to go talk to their peers and say, "Hey, I made a mistake today, but Fletus and the security team had empathy. They admitted we all make mistakes. We all have emotions. It's easy for us to make mistakes. So I'll leave you with a challenge now. When you go back to work in the morning, take time to talk with your manager and say, "Hey, I would like to open up our next staff meeting with a cyber moment. And I'm going to pull from a relevant article that's appropriate to the line of business we work in." So if you're a finance team, look at a BEC, a business email compromise attack, and how they did an account change by changing the routing number. Or if you're in retail, talk about the attacks that happen day in and day out on your point of sale systems. Make it relevant, make it applicable, and employees will resonate with those stories. That's why it's important to start your day with just looking at the news, joining a podcast, listening in to relevant leaders in the field, and also walking away from your keyboard. It's okay to disconnect. Actually, I encourage you to disconnect by finding a hobby to do outside of cyber. Numerous times going on a walk, going for a run, playing disc golf with friends or my kids has made me a better practitioner and leader because it's cleared my mind, cleared my ability to be able to stop, think, and assess and look at the perspective from a different light. So I appreciate your time tonight. I hope you found this valuable. I will be continuing to put out YouTube shorts around my food for thoughts. Feel free to follow me on LinkedIn, X, or Blue Sky. I'm easy to find, likely the only Fleetest you'll find in there. If you have specific questions, feel free to put them in the comments of this YouTube video, and I will be glad to make content around that or address them. So with that, stay secure and have a great night.